Have you ever wondered why a man can become utterly obsessed with a woman who isn't necessarily the societal standard of beauty? It's a pull so powerful it feels like destiny, a magnetic force he simply can't explain. But this isn't just about love or lust. This is about a deep psychological phenomenon that the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung called projection, and it's one of the most powerful and often terrifying forces in the human psyche. In this video, we will uncover the 3 Jungian reasons a man becomes obsessed with a woman beyond physical attraction, and what this powerful dynamic truly means for both people involved. To truly grasp the roots of this powerful obsession, we must first familiarize ourselves with one of Carl Jung's most central concepts, the anima. In Jungian psychology, the anima represents the unconscious, inner feminine dimension of a man's psyche. It is not a literal entity, but a deep psychological structure, a collection of all the feminine traits, potentials, emotional capacities, and energies that he, often due to societal conditioning or personal development, has not integrated into his conscious personality. This includes qualities like intuition, empathy, nurturing, and a connection to the irrational and the mysterious. Because this inner woman exists primarily in his unconscious, he remains largely blind to her within himself. He doesn't recognize these qualities as his own latent potential. Instead, this unconscious content is automatically projected outward onto the world, and the most potent target for this projection is a real woman. Jung himself stated, "Every man carries with him the eternal image of woman, not the image of this or that particular woman, but a definitive feminine image. This image is fundamentally unconscious, an hereditary factor of primordial origin. This means he walks through life with an innate archetypal blueprint of the feminine, and when he encounters a woman who seems to match key aspects of this blueprint, the stage is set for a powerful and fateful connection. He isn't just seeing her for who she is, he is seeing her through the lens of his own soul. Reason 1. She carries his soul image. This brings us to the first and most fundamental reason for this consuming obsession. She becomes the vessel for his soul image. When a man encounters a woman who, for reasons he cannot logically articulate, seems to resonate perfectly with his inner unconscious anima, a profound psychological event occurs. The projection is cast. In that moment, he is not truly seeing the woman in her full, complex, and independent humanity. Instead, he is captivated by a brilliant illusion. He is seeing his own missing soul, his own unexpressed inner feminine, reflected back at him through her. She appears to be the living embodiment of everything he feels is missing from his own conscious personality. The experience of this projection is nothing short of magical and divine. It feels like fate, like a recognition of a soulmate, because, in a psychological sense, it is. He has found a part of himself that has been lost to him his entire life, and it feels like coming home. This is the source of the intense, almost gravitational pull. He becomes obsessed not with the actual real woman, with her quirks, her flaws, her own dreams and fears, but with the luminous, archetypal image he has superimposed upon her. He is obsessed with the feeling of wholeness she provides, a wholeness he has never been able to access on his own. He believes, with every fiber of his being, that she alone holds the key to his completeness. However, this beautiful and compelling fantasy carries a devastating downside, creating an immense and often unfair burden for the woman. She is placed upon a precarious pedestal, not for who she authentically is, but for an idealized fantasy. She is loved for the projection, not for her true self. This creates a situation where her genuine human needs, her flaws, her bad days, and her individuality become threats to the perfect image he needs her to be. When she inevitably fails to live up to this impossible ideal, when she acts in a way that contradicts his projection, the entire magical construct is jeopardized. This can lead to confusion, frustration, and resentment on both sides. He may feel betrayed, as if she has deliberately hidden her true, i.e., projected self, while she feels the crushing pressure of being loved for a role she never auditioned for and can never perfectly maintain. The relationship, instead of being a meeting of two whole individuals, becomes a transaction where one person is tasked with carrying the soul of the other, a weight no human being is meant to bear. Reason 2. She embodies his unexplored potential. This powerful dynamic, however, is not merely a psychological error. It is also a potential catalyst for profound growth. The anima is not just a static image to be projected. Within the Jungian framework, she also functions as a vital psychopomp, a guide of the soul. Jung identified the anima as the primary bridge connecting a man's conscious ego to his deeper, unconscious self and, ultimately, to his sacred journey of individuation. Individuation is the lifelong process of becoming a complete, integrated person, of realizing one's unique psychological and spiritual potential by acknowledging and incorporating the disowned parts of one's psyche. In this context, the woman who carries the anima projection becomes far more than an object of desire. She becomes a living symbol of the path he must walk. This is why the woman who captivates him in this way often personifies the specific qualities and energies he has most neglected in his own conscious life. If he is hyperrational, logical, and driven, she may appear to him as the embodiment of creative inspiration, fluid intuition, or a deep connection to nature and emotion. If his life is structured and conventional, she may represent spontaneity, mystery, and a connection to the numinous. She seems to possess the very tools he is missing to build a fuller, more authentic life. His fascination with her is, at its core, a fascination with the unlived portions of his own being. He is drawn to her because she represents a door to a room within his own house that he has never dared to enter. Consequently, the obsession we witness is not simply a desire to possess another person, but a desperate, often unconscious, pull toward his own unrealized potential. He is obsessed with the state of wholeness that she seems to promise. He intuits, at a level deeper than words, that union with her would mean union with the missing parts of himself. This is the profound reason why these connections feel so faded, so laden with meaning, as if answering a sacred calling. It is a calling, but the call is not coming from her. It is an internal psychic summons from his own self, using her image as the compelling signal. The tragedy and the opportunity lies in his interpretation. He believes she is the key to his wholeness, when in reality, she is merely the mirror showing him that the key exists and that he is the one who must learn to use it. The relationship becomes a crucible for transformation, forcing him to confront the very parts of himself he has ignored, not to acquire them from her, but to awaken and claim them within himself. Reason 3. The wounded healer archetype and the need for integration. Beneath the surface of this intense attraction often lies a profound and painful catalyst, a psychological wound. This obsession frequently takes root not in a man's strength, but in a period of crisis, loneliness, alienation, or a deep-seated feeling of being disconnected from life's meaning and purpose. In this vulnerable state, a powerful archetype is activated within his psyche, that of the wounded healer. This archetype embodies the paradoxical idea that our deepest suffering can become the source of our greatest insight and capacity for healing, but in its unconscious form, it manifests as a desperate search for an external cure. He projects this healing power outward onto the woman who carries his anima, effectively casting her in the role of a savior. He becomes convinced on an unconscious level that her love, her presence, her very essence is the singular medicine that can fix him, soothe his inner void, and make him whole again. This belief fuels the obsession, giving it a life-or-death intensity. His psychological survival feels dependent on securing and maintaining this connection. However, this is where we encounter the crucial, and for many, terrifying truth that Jung's work reveals. The obsession cannot be resolved by permanently possessing the woman. The very nature of a projection means it is an illusion, a fantasy that the real, human woman will inevitably disrupt. The relationship built on this foundation is like building a house on a mirage. It is destined to collapse under the weight of reality. When she fails to permanently heal his wound or consistently embody the perfect healer, as any human being must, the projection can shatter, often flipping into its opposite and revealing the repressed negative anima, leading to bitterness, rage, and blame. The solution, therefore, is not to find the perfect person to complete you, but to undertake the difficult, inward work of reclaiming what you have given away. The only path to genuine resolution and authentic relationship is the conscious and deliberate process of withdrawing the projection and integrating the anima. This means the man must recognize that the qualities he so admires and depends on in her are, in fact, his own latent capacities. He must cease looking to her as his source of creativity, emotional depth, or spiritual connection, and begin the challenging task of cultivating these faculties within himself. He must learn to nurture his own creativity, to acknowledge and responsibly handle his own emotions, and to connect with his own soul through introspection and self-awareness. This is the alchemical work of transformation that Jung alluded to when he wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." For a true transformation to occur, the reaction cannot be one of dependency, but of mutual catalysis, where the encounter serves to initiate each individual's own journey toward wholeness. The obsession, in its raw and painful form, is ultimately a distorted, externalized cry for this very integration. The end of the fantasy is the beginning of the real, more demanding, and infinitely more rewarding journey toward the self. This powerful psychological dynamic, once set in motion, inevitably forks into one of two possible paths, leading to radically different outcomes. The path taken depends entirely on one factor: the emergence of consciousness. If a man remains entirely unconscious of the projection at work, the initial idealization is doomed to curdle into toxicity, leading down a path of destruction. The pedestal upon which he has placed the woman is a fragile construct, and it will inevitably break under the weight of her authentic humanity. When she reveals ordinary human flaws, when she is tired, vulnerable, independent, or simply disagrees with him, she ceases to be a perfect vessel for his soul. In that moment, the luminous anima projection can violently flip into its opposite, the negative anima, characterized by frustration, hatred, and blame. He may feel profoundly betrayed, as if she deliberately tricked him. This disillusionment can manifest as controlling behavior, possessive jealousy, or deep despair, as the source of his perceived wholeness is now seen as the source of his pain. The relationship becomes a battlefield where two people are fighting not each other, but the ghosts of their own unmet psychological needs. Conversely, if he has the courage to become conscious of this process, a path of transcendence opens. This begins with the profound realization that the intense attraction and sense of fate were not about the woman herself, but about what she represented. This awareness is the first step in withdrawing the projection. He can then begin, often with great difficulty, to see the real woman in her full, separate, and imperfect humanity. The relationship ceases to be a fantasy and becomes a real encounter between two individuals. In this space, the obsession, stripped of its magical thinking, can mature into genuine love. The connection is no longer based on a desperate need for completion, but on a conscious choice to grow alongside another. The woman, once a screen for a projection, becomes a true partner and a mirror, reflecting not his lost soul, but his opportunities for growth. The energy of the initial obsession is thus transformed, becoming the fuel for individuation rather than the cause of mutual destruction. So what is the real, underlying force that creates this powerful, all-consuming obsession in a man for a woman that transcends mere physical attraction? We have seen that it is a complex psychological phenomenon, one that points not outward to the woman, but inward to the man's own unconscious depths. To recap, this obsession is fueled by three interconnected Jungian principles. First, it is the power of the anima projection, where a woman is unconsciously cast as the living embodiment of a man's own inner, feminine soul, a soul he does not yet recognize within himself. He sees his missing half in her, and the pull to unite with it feels like destiny itself. Second, this is intensified by the call to wholeness. She appears to possess the very qualities, creativity, intuition, emotional depth, that he has neglected in his own conscious life. His obsession is, at its core, a desperate attraction to his own unrealized potential and a summons to begin the journey of individuation. And third, we cannot ignore the healing fantasy. This dynamic is often activated by a wound, a void, or a period of profound disconnection. He projects the archetype of the healer onto her, believing with every fiber of his being that she alone holds the power to fix the emptiness within him. Therefore, it is crucial to understand that a powerful obsession of this nature is not, in its initial form, a sign of true love. True love is built upon seeing and valuing another person in their authentic entirety, not as a symbol. This obsession is something else entirely. It is a summons to a spiritual and psychological journey. It is a powerful, albeit distorted, signal from the deep self that wholeness is required. The intense magnetic pull is not a command to possess another person, but a call to look inward, to reclaim your projections, and to undertake the most important work of your life, to become the whole, integrated, and complete person you are ultimately meant to be. The end of the illusion is the beginning of your true becoming.